Alright, I have no idea how to do an intro or anything like that, so this is super weird talking to the camera. But my name is Tushan Naidu. I am a photographer based in Johannesburg and frequently travel to Cape Town and whatnot. So today I'm going to show you guys how I edit my photographs using Lightroom. I don't believe in using Photoshop, so we're going to head right into Lightroom. We have a beautiful photograph of Lanzi here. This is a photograph that I took yesterday in my little home studio. It's kind of the first time I've got a little home studio going on, so super excited about that. Okay, cool, so let's head right in. So generally what I do when I start editing a photo that comes directly from camera, because it's a straight raw out of camera, you can see it is super sharp. Yeah, and I shot this with my 85mm at f1.2, so pretty quick, pretty fast in terms of aperture speeds, but it's one of my favorite lenses of all time. Cool, so here we go. Basically what I do when I start off with editing an image is I always adjust the white balance. In this case, I used a daylight light, so I'm going to change this over to daylight. You can see that it's gone a little bit yellow here. I'm gonna move a little bit. There we go. So you add a little bit of magenta to it because it's slightly off, and you've got quite a nice starting point. If you can see the histogram up here, the image is quite dark, and this is because of the background. So the histogram is taking a lot of the background in and is saying, hey, this background is really dark. How are we going to go ahead and edit this if our histogram is basically telling us this? So how I like to edit my photographs is I like to get the exposure just right on the face themselves, the face of the model, herself, himself, whatever, or just the subject. Whatever the subject is, I like to get that really exposed and showcase that quite nicely. So to do that, I do something very simple. I kind of crop all the way down, and not that, but I bring this all the way up here and enter, and you can see the histogram is now updated to show a more true representation of what this image, or at least what the focus point of this image is actually in full, perfect, almost perfect exposure. You can press J to see if there's anything that's a bit blown out or anything. I want to erase this just a little bit, that's it. That's all it needs, just a 0.2 exposure. And then go ahead and reset the crop from this, and you can see that it's just such a small adjustment that's made this change. Okay, perfect. So here we go, we've got the image nicely exposed, we've got a good starting point here. I then go ahead and add some contrast to this image. This really depends on what you're going for in this regard. I mean, we can go for like a light image which is really soft and brings up more of the background, but we lose a lot of contrast from there, or you can go for a little bit of a darker, harder image, as you can see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of contrast here, just to bring out the shadow that's here along her cheek and just along the top here as well. From this point here, I'm going to just remove this highlight around. You can see here that it adds a nice softness to her skin because of how soft the light is. It doesn't blow it out like that's way too much. But just a touch. Generally, you want to go back until a point where you can't tell that it's there anymore, and then you know that you're on the right track. The shadows, we can always lift it if you'd like to, but this brings out nice shadows in her hair, but it brings out the background a bit too much for me. So I'm going to take this down just a little bit here, just to deepen that background, just a tad. We've lost a bit of the detail here in her hair, but don't worry, we will work on that and we'll get that back on track. From this point here, you want to then just remove the white balance a little bit, not the white balance, sorry, but the whites of the image. You even move it around just a bit to get it. I like it when it's a bit slightly brighter. It gives a nice effect to the image itself, so that's quite nice to have that. Forgive me, my computer's making a bit of a racket here. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can hear it. So moving along, we're going to then go ahead and adjust the black slightly. So here you can see that as we move this down a bit, you get this nice darkness that's now gotten here. So you've got just this effect of this standout portrait in a way. I quite like this look already. I'm quite happy with the way it looks. And this is awesome for me. I love this. You could argue and say that the hair itself here has disappeared and we can add that in later. But we're going to carry on here. Textures is a new thing that I've noticed in the new version of Lightroom, which I had to update to be able to use the new files that have come with this new CR3 format or whatever the case is. So texture is a new thing here. I don't know if I quite like it. It adds a little bit, if you can see here, it's just a bit too much. So I actually prefer to remove a bit of texture, just to remove it out, just enough so that you're not removing all the sharpness from the eye, but you're just kind of taking a little bit of that edge off. And you can see it helps to clear up the skin here and to give it a little bit more of a softer look to the image itself. The next thing we're going to focus on here is clarity. Clarity I generally bring a little bit up because it adds a nice effect to the image itself as a whole. We go, I'll show you here. So that's kind of without it, and that's basically how much I'm adding. It does bring out a little bit more and soften up the shadow a little bit here, but you can see as a before and after we've made just the background darker and brought out a little bit more of her skin tone. Moving along, we've got dehaze, which you can use now to add haze, or you can use to remove it here, which is where we get some really like deep dark colors. So sorry, that was very difficult for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a little bit of haze here, just a tad, because I feel like that adds a nice impact to the image. I'm going to drop some vibrance here. At this point here, I usually drop quite a bit of vibrance in the image, and then I follow up by reducing the saturation of the image itself. So you can see here that I'm quite happy with that. Very, very, very slight, very slight. I love it. You can press J here to actually see what is completely dark and what isn't. In this case, you can see here that the hair has lost basically all of its everything, and it's become a very dark, completely blacked out image. This might actually look really nice. Yeah, I thought so. In black and white, actually looks great as well. But moving along, we're going to come over to the tone curve. It's one of my favorite things to really play around with and to really get some good contrast going in on the image. To start off with, I usually add 3 separate points onto the curve channel, and then I go ahead and adjust them as I desire, basically. So usually very minute adjustment, and you can see here what it does to the image, and less is more. With the tone curve, less is more, as you can see. So we're going to do that and a little bit here, just to bring down the overall image itself, just to bring it like a little bit more rounder and get a little bit more effect to it, like that. Okay, cool. So moving along, we're gonna go ahead and mess around with this. So this is quite interesting. In this image specifically, Lindsay's got this lipstick on, or this something on her lips on, and dark, it looks very corporate. It looks a very corporate image, and I think brightening it up and adding a bit of saturation will really help this. And there we go. So as you can see here, we can mess around with it. We can make it completely like there's nothing there, or we can add a little bit of dimension to it. And I think that looks quite nice. I'm quite happy with that. That looks awesome, if I do say so. Before and after, it's just such a slight adjustment here, but just to get the lips, the color of the lips right, and adjust a bit of the outfit. Moving along, generally I don't touch the orange and the yellow because that's where all the skin tones sit, unless there's a huge problem with the skin tones. In that case, you can always then adjust this as necessary. Like as you can see here, this softens the light immensely, and that's just by darkening the yellows. And then the oranges, same story. If you want to add some effects to it, some brightness to it, I quite like this because I think it adds like a niceness to the image. If you can see here, it just softens the image quite nicely, and that's just playing around with the yellow channel. We can continue all the way down. I don't think any of these colors are really present. Like maybe there's a bit of magenta in here or a bit of purple, but there's definitely really very little blues and aquas that we're really dealing with here in this image specifically. So I'm not going to bother with any of that. Split tonings as well, I'm not interested. It doesn't faze me at all. Sharpening is one of the things which I love using. Of course, like you shouldn't over sharpen your image, so I always press Alt and then bring this across just to have an effect of what it is that I want sharpened, what it is that's masked and what I want sharpened. So there you go. So it's about a 56 sharpening that I've done here, and that's like a 96% masking, sorry. It's like not even English at this point. Okay, cool. So we're gonna move along here. We've got some lens corrections here that we can do. You can see that this brings out the color again here and the lightness here, and we've actually gotten that red of the background back. And that's just by enabling the profile corrections. That's just the profile corrections of this lens to bring the vignetting out and to actually get a nice effect from here. So that looks quite nice. I like that you've got somewhat of a background that's happening there. You can see it's very dark, very dull, but it is there. It does exist. We're gonna come a little bit further down here. I mean, if you wanted to add a little bit more of that post vignetting, you totally can. You can also, you know, I don't know if you'd ever want to do that, but just a tad bit like there, that's awesome. And you can see it's just such a slight roundness that it gives and focuses your eye on the actual image itself. So quite happy with that. That's awesome. This is a very interesting spot that I like to mess around with, is the camera calibration. I like to mess around with it to get like slightly different effects into the image itself. You don't need a lot, you need very little, like a few digits here and there, and that just gives it a little bit, just a tiny bit. So we're going to continue around here, and we're going to continue messing around with all these. So this, we add a little bit here, and then just a little bit here. This is all I'm doing, this all by eye. There's not really any preset things that I'm following. I'm just kind of like adjusting. In complete honesty and in effort to maintain honesty, I have already edited this image before, and I'll show you what I got before and what I'm trying to get now and what's changed since then. Continuing on, we're going to go to the green channel, and you can see that we just need to add a little bit here just to get the skin tones very nice there. There you go, you see that's like a bit too much. And that so far is quite nice, I quite like that. This is very interesting. So if you bring this across all the way here, you've got this red that comes gashing out of the image. If you bring it the other way here, you've got this other weird kind of green alien thing happening here. But if you have some blues in your image, the blue primary really works in getting some really nice colors out there. So yeah, I think that's that. I think I'm happy. That's an awesome image. The only thing that I would change at this point here is I would soften her skin slightly. I'll tell you why. Have a look at this, right? So I'm going to add the soften skin mask brush here kind of vibes. We're going to lower the feather a little bit, and then we're just going to take out a bit of this here. So let's have a look here. My computer is slightly slow, so bear with me. It doesn't quite register immediately what's happening, but I'll be happy to show you guys as soon as I'm done here what it looks like. So it's just on the sides here, on the cheeks, and there a little bit on the forehead. There we go. So that's quite cool. I'm quite happy with that. You see, like sometimes if you go a bit too far, you can see where the adjustments are made. So have a look here. So that's after and before, and you can see it's softened the skin quite nicely, but because we've done it in such a way, we've kept the eyes. So all of this that you see, that's this dark bits here, is what we've actually done. I'm going to remove a little bit from the eye here, and then I'm just going to add a little bit here on the bottom. Cool, so there you go. That's basically the photograph done, I'd say. I can add a little bit more here. Yeah, if you're getting a bit worried as to why there's this big dark thing, don't worry, it's just a mask overlay. As soon as you take it out, there you go, you've got this beautiful image here. So that's the adjustment, really. If you really wanted to, you could totally take out whatever little spot she has, whatever the case is, but I don't think it's necessary because this is quite a beautiful image and I'm quite happy with the way that this has turned out. So that was the first image that I edited from this as the original. The one that I edited yesterday was this one here. So that's the one I edited yesterday, and this is the one that I've edited today. You can tell me which one you guys prefer, and we can go from there. But I think I like the new one that I've just edited now a bit better. This one here I think is slightly too hard, and I think I've done a little bit too much on the lips. But this is quite nice, quite a natural looking one. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something. If you enjoyed this video, do the necessaries, like whatever, liking and subscribing and commenting and torrenting and all those other things. But if you didn't, well, let me know, or don't. I mean, it's up to you. But yeah, I hope to do this again soon with you guys, and I hope you guys learned something. And if you have any other questions, or you want to know what gear I'm using, or any other videos that you'd like me to do, let me know in the comments, or drop me a DM or PM or whatever it is that you want to do. And yeah, let's get on this. So have an awesome day, guys, and I'll catch you on the next side. Peace. It's a beautiful light, by the way.